video rolling. And I might get up at some point and hit a button on there because I have to fix my computer. But we just got back from the Swinging Door Exchange. Andy and I went to a couple drinks. We met some people. Some people were scared. But then we ran into Jason Foust. Is it Foust? Did I say it right?
Foust. Well
Jason
played.
Foust. Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Pleasure. Real pleasure.
What do you know
Sketchy a little bit.
Jason?
I mean, we're figuring this out as we go.
Well, this is part of the deal. Is it's unscripted, and we've only done one, so you're like learning along with us.
I'm so.
I'm stealing your drink just for the promo. I want to say the drink. The show is sponsored. This episode sponsored by Central Standard Distillery and their awesome brandy old fashioned ready to drink cocktail. Look at. I'm just gonna hold it up so I don't have to edit it later.
It's by default.
It's blurry. It's not even going to show up on. There we go. It tastes fantastic.
Okay.
And Jason, we're not going to make you endorse this because you work for a very good whiskey distiller. What exactly do you do?
How much time do we have?
All the time you want.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I wear some hats. I represent Angelse Envey.
Yes.
Angelse Envey is a distillery based in Louisville, Kentucky. It is, we paved roads because we were controversial in 2010 when we started because we kind of wanted to mess with bourbon a bit. So taking bourbon, for us, it's a 5 to 6 year old bourbon, and put it into another barrel.
Okay.
And that is finishing.
Yeah, midlife on the bourbon.
It's double maturation, it's double barreling, double oaked. There's lots of names for it, but at the time, it just wasn't a thing. So we truly scaled that category in taking bourbon into another barrel just to understand that journey that it could take, which is beautiful.
So that was a big no-no in the industry?
Back then, yes.
Okay, and why?
Because it's bourbon with all its rich history, tradition, legal laws that you have to abide by to be a bourbon, right? Because all whiskey can't be bourbon, but all bourbon is whiskey.
Okay, explain that for those who don't know, like me.
So there's ABCs. So we'll talk the stuff that you might recognize. So bourbon doesn't have to be from Kentucky, number one.
Okay.
Huge misconception, right? Yeah. Bourbon County, Kentucky. People think it needs to be from there.
Very much so. 98% of bourbon still comes from Kentucky.
That much? Wow.
Words. Kentucky.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. It has to be from the United States. That is number one. Number two, mash bill. The grain build of any whiskey has to be based off corn.
Okay.
So whiskey is defined as any grain-based spirit distilled, put in a barrel, right? So corn has to be the base of bourbon. Bourbon has to be put in a brand new charred oak barrel. It has to be distilled. This is where this nerd science shit comes in because
I love this stuff.
You don't forget my language. You've got, so distilled, every spirit on the planet comes out clear. And if I have to give a science lesson on fermentation to distillation, I'm going to set it up like so. You make grains. You blend it. Let's talk about coffee.
Yep.
ADD, forgive me. ADD conversation. You take grains. So bourbon has to be based off corn. You take a blend of those grains. You take a blend of coffee. You take that core product. You grind it fine. You grind it coarse, right? All those things come into play in that final product. So for us, corn has to be 51% of that grain base has to be corn. After that, wheat or rye grains are typically used.
Sure.
In almost all core bourbons. You look at rye mash bills, and they call them high rye mash, or just rye mash bills. Us, Four Roses, Evan Williams, Woodford. You can look at these products and look at these grain bills and kind of navigate what you like, right? So you look at weeded mash bills. Buffalo Trace, massive. Right?
Yep.
They're the big weeded mash bills. I digress. Going back to the grains, you look at how you process them. You take that corn or you take that coffee, if you will. The way you process it in the beginning is going to affect that end result. If you take the same coffee bean, you fine grind it, you coarse grind it, you put it in a French press, you put it in a pour over, that affects that final product.
So it's the same thing with every other thing, every other grain you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Corn grain, and this go back to the flavor profile. So you take those things, or you take that grain makeup, that mash bill, if you will. You can kind of understand what you're getting in the end product. So for us, if corn is in that mash bill, and you can think of these grains kind of like, bread, rye.
Sure.
Rye.
Yep. Rye
Bold,
bread.
intense, spicy.
Yeah, most bread has
Yeah.
the exact same ingredients. It's just how much you put and how you cook it changes the entire thing.
Rye punches you in the mouth,
Oh,
right?
God, yeah. Intense,
But
bold,
corn
spicy.
is sweet.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Wheat bread,
Yep.
sweet, some minerality there. You
Yep.
can kind of relate these things to whiskey. So if you understand what that product is, and I say this because you can look at a shelf and understand what's in the bottle by reading the bottle. And if you know what a wheat whiskey is or rye whiskey is, a mash bill, it's easy to navigate because, look, rye grains, rye mash bills, they give that spiciness, and that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
So
What percent rye?
So for us, it's 18% rye.
Okay. Okay.
So
And over 50% corn because it's a bourbon, right?
boom,
Yep.
nice.
And he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he
You
does.
guys will just have the conversation. I'm just gonna hear. I'm just
Yep.
gonna be here to learn.
So bourbon has to be, and again, forgive. We'll go down so many avenues here.
We could spend hours talking about bourbon. But you don't know what podcast you showed up to.
Yep.
But to be
Keep going. I'm getting a drink.
But to be bourbon, right? You have to be based off corn.
Yes.
51% corn.
Yep.
Establish that. Second, you have to make that distillate based off corn, and you have to produce that distillate at certain levels. So level 1 is that you have to cook those grains, because every single whiskey on the planet is cooked.
Right.
Those grains are cooked. That's fermentation. Once you cook those grains and filter that out, you put it into a barrel. You can't put it into the barrel more than 125 proof.
Okay. Oh, sure.
So, science nerd stuff. 125 proof in the barrel. Once you pull it out of that barrel, after it's sat there for 5-6 years, if you know whiskey, that proof is going to change a lot.
Yep.
Depending on where it's at in the warehouse. If it's high up in the warehouse, it's going to gain proof. If it's low in the warehouse, it's either going to lose proof or maintain proof.
Sure.
That's probably a separate conversation, but at the same time, that barrel has been sitting there for 5 years, and you can't put that juice, if you will, was put in that barrel at 125 proof. It's only going to go up or go down. Most of the time it goes up. So you look at, for us, it's like 120, 130 proof. The only thing you can do to whiskey, add to whiskey, is water.
Okay.
So if you think about coming off the still at no more than 160 proof, cutting it down to 125 proof, putting it into a barrel, after it's aged, you can't put it into a bottle at less than 80 proof.
Okay.
And that on top of, so we talked about the mash bill,
Yep.
America,
Yes.
the grain. You cannot add anything but water to bourbon,
Sure.
to be bourbon.
Yep. Otherwise, it's not bourbon anymore. There's
cheap-
Fireball.
Boom. The sheep whiskeys.
Yeah.
You can add coloring, flavoring, whatever to that.
Yeah.
So
sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Please, this strict set of rules.
Yeah.
For a whiskey to be a bourbon, because all whiskey can't be bourbon, but all bourbon is whiskey.
Yeah.
Is that
American oak, and you started finishing it in sherry casks,
port
casks,
port wine barrels?
It was a good guess, right, Jason?
I respect
no,
it.
I'm trying to toot my own horn here, but okay.
I respect.
Andy, you're blushing.
Yeah.
Look, when we started, and
This is like the best night ever for you.
we should have done this before the few drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
Hey,
No. We did it right.
Yeah, you're right.
We're doing everything perfect.
Yeah.
But when we started 2010, it was controversial.
Sure.
'Cause we're making bourbon, but we're kind of messing with it.
Yeah.
And people they had a problem with it.
Yeah.
They're like, look,
Traditionalists.
yes, pure. There's so much history, tradition that
Yeah.
pure process of making bourbon is very real. But we were doing that.
They're like Shiite bourbonites.
Yes.
Very intense bourbon followers.
Yeah. And it's still a battle to this day.
Yeah.
But at the end, it was, look, there's this journey that bourbon whiskey can take in another barrel that just
Makes it better.
this beautiful journey.
Yeah.
You take the core bourbon, and it's every rich. One of our big sayings is revere tradition, embrace progress.
I like that.
And that's exactly what we do. We make bourbon by every rule and definition, but we embrace that progress and just take it one step further. So we take that bourbon, and for us, it's a 4 to 5 year old bourbon,
Yep.
aged in that new white oak barrel. So fun fact.
I like it.
ADD
Yep.
moment. The definition is an oak container, right?
Doesn't need to be a barrel.
American white oak is the most prevalent and accessible oak in America.
Yes.
If you thought you can put out a bourbon aged in 100% French oak barrels
Yeah.
and put it up against all the big labels we know, you could do that. The definition is
Doesn't need to be American white oak.
American. Correct.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. Fun fact. Number
Yeah.
one.
And it doesn't need to be a barrel. It needs to be a container.
If you wanted to do it in a square oak container, you could.
That could be
Joe's
the
wheels are turning right
Yeah.
now. He's
I'm like, what other controversy can Angels Envy do to expand their brand? Just
Yeah.
start doing square boxes
Yes.
of bourbon.
For those of you
Just to piss everybody
you just
off.
want to change the game,
Yeah.
you're like, you know what? You say square container. I know these are round barrels, but you know what? These are square oak barrels.
And then you move it into a star-shaped one, just to piss everyone off.
And you could, and you know what?
Those will stack well.
Yes. And the thing with bourbon is that it takes so much time to really hone this in that will take years for you to realize that, okay, I'm going to talk about it now. Because, yes, I'm with you. I would be all about you aging in star-shaped barrels, square barrels.
Yeah, I like it. Revolutionize the game.
But it'd be the long...
Angels Envy Star Preserve. Just have a limited run. Do 2 of them.
Yeah. It'd be the long game because...
Yeah, 10 grand a bottle.
We'll see what happens 5 years from now.
Yes.
I like it.
But
So-
that container, right?
Yep.
Just has to be new
Right.
oak. Not American, but brand new oak barrels. So you can't reuse those barrels. Most of those barrels go overseas. Ours go mostly to, Scotch and Scotland and
Ireland and
Yep.
where they can do whatever the fuck they want to do.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, almost every spirit on the planet uses used American
Yeah.
bourbon barrels.
Changes of the flavor profile.
So,
go.
Do you have more questions on this?
I have a lot of questions.
I want to stop talking. I just
No.
want to answer questions.
No. This is great. So,
No,
Jason,
this is really good.
I do have a couple questions. So,
Go for it, man.
Metallica's
you're like
whiskey,
shaking. You're so excited.
Blackened. They play Metallica songs to change the flavor profile of this whiskey. Do you ever sing to the barrels of whiskey at Angelse Envey?
I've asked so many times to be that person. Mike, listen to my voice.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a great
I
voice.
wouldn't say it's a radio voice, but I feel
is.
like it's a voice that can permeate barrels.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
once they're aging.
You're resonating at the right frequency.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what would you sing to the barrels when they decide to let you?
It'd probably be some like Du Hast, you know.
Okay.
Oh, I want you to do that to my star barrels. Du hast.
But see,
Du
I
hast
think it
mich
would
schon fast.
resonate over round barrels because it needs to, I
Yeah,
feel
the
like it
sound
hit
keeps
the
going.
side of
Yeah.
a star.
No.
point.
The room is round to reflect and hit all the sides of the star.
My friend, you've changed the game.
That's what I do.
Right now, you've changed the
I
game.
change games.
Do you know why the music thing exists?
I it's a little bit of like fan favoritism, right? Because allegedly it moves the barrels, the whiskey changes a little bit.
Can I take a shot at it, not knowing that this was a thing?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just vibrations.
Yeah.
So there is truth to it.
I believe there's truth to it. When you play music to plants, they grow better.
Yeah. So the impact of it.
And the type of music matters.
Yes.
Yep. 100%. That impact is yet to be determined. But that vibration creates let's
some
just
movement.
say movement in the juice.
Yep.
You think about a barrel full of liquid. Those vibrations of the music are going to move that juice in the barrel because aging is 70% ish of flavor in a whiskey.
Yeah.
That whiskey comes off the still clear every single time. Every spirit on the planet comes clear. Can we just talk science? Like, can we get a little jingle for the science?
Sure.
Do a jingle.
I don't know. I don't know
Do
what jingles
an
I
eye
have.
point of
Yeah. We got one.
All right. Well,
I don't know. I have.
There we go.
all right.
Science time.
That's perfect.
Nerd.
It is not exciting, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
You look at.
Oh wait. I might have a. There, I don't know.
All right, we're stepping up a bit. I like it. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked at these in a very long time.
I love it.
Yeah, if it's a bad one, I'll just. Yeah. All right. No more sound of. This isn't a shock jock radio show. Let's get back to business.
So the science behind it, you distill a spirit. I'm just going to step back a bit. All those grains I talked about.
Yep.
Right? You mill them. You grind
You can step
them.
back in the story, but keep close to the microphone.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yep. You mill them. You grind them. Right? You put them in a pot. This pot is, hundreds of gallons. You add water and you cook it. You think about like strawberries, rhubarb, some things that, look, you're not going to understand the flavor and get the real sweetness out of those things unless you cook them. Corn's one of those things.
Yeah.
You ever eaten a raw kernel of corn?
I'm from Iowa, Jason.
Okay.
No, I have not.
That's in your blood. Yeah. You're like, boy, you eat this kernel of corn raw.
And I know you're from Indiana, so you've done the same thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Eating lots
You've
of
made
kernels
me
of
feel
corn.
less Midwest than I am. I grew up in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys, I'm a city boy.
Yeah.
Have you eaten a raw kernel of corn?
You can't really eat it.
Dry?
It's
No, because I'm not insane.
You're a real man. That's the test we get as sons of Midwest
I mean, it
dads.
explains a lot about you farm folk.
So you take that very horrible dry kernel of corn
Yeah.
that you maybe don't have to eat outside of the Midwest. You cook it. Guess what? The sweetness comes out. It's
Yep.
like all of us gentlemen.
Smooth,
And all you
sweet.
got to do is just
Midwest man.
Cook us a little bit.
Cook us a little bit.
Give us a little warmth, a little tender,
get
a little
that-
warm tenderness.
Get that sweetness out a little bit. That sweetness comes out. You have to have sugar to convert to make alcohol. So what corn presents in any distillate is sugar. And that's really the primary source of that conversion because corn is full of sugar.
Yep.
So if you take, again, stay with me, corn is the base of all bourbon. So if you take a corn mash bill is a makeup of a grain, it's all corn. For us, after the corn, it's rye, and then a little bit of malted barley. Malted barley is in almost all whiskeys because it also creates a sugar source to convert to bourbon. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So for us, it's 72% corn, 18% rye grain, 10% malted barley. You take all those grains, you grind them up. Just pretend you're throwing them into a coffee grinder, right? You throw them in a big pot, you throw some water in, and you cook it. Cooking that's going to release all those natural sugars. And then once you cook that, you throw in some yeast. And yeast is one of the magical ingredients in all whiskey production because yeast presents an incredible diversity in flavor.
Okay.
Because you can have yeast strains that represent different flavors. It might be sweet.
Oh, interesting.
It might be savory. It might be spicy.
Sure.
People will hang their hat on like proprietary yeast strains that they've had for years, decades.
So they'll propagate the yeast that they like.
Yes.
And then that bacteria, the way it consumes the sugar and poops out the alcohol, that flavor is different by strain of yeast.
Well said, my friend.
Joe's
incredible.
been to a lakefront brewery tour. Right?
Well, I know a little bit. I know a little bit about the science behind it.
So Four Roses is they do a really cool example of they have 2 yeast strains and 5 mash bills.
Okay.
Because if you add a yeast strain, if that yeast strain decides, because look, if you're bread makers out there, look, COVID happened. All the bread makers blossomed. Everyone became a bread maker or a real estate agent or,
Or they started podcasts.
Yes. Or they learn how to code.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like if you can code, you can make bread, you can do podcasts, and you can sell real estate.
Or if you sell booze.
Or blues.
Yeah.
Yes. The constant. So all these things, the yeast you add because, like you said, the yeast eats the sugar, poops out alcohol. That is as basic fermentation as you can get.
Yeah.
So if you cook a mixture of grains, in our case, rye, corn, malted barley, you cook it, you add yeast, that is basic fermentation. That fermented juice of those cooked grains is like a 10% alcohol base. You take that fermented alcohol base, you strain out all that stuff, and then you distill it. Basically, meaning you just heat it up again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if science, you gotta
the boo.
Yeah.
Science.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, winner.
Oh, science.
Science jingle. Science jingle. Water and alcohol evaporate at a different level. And surprisingly, jingle, alcohol evaporates at a lower level than water. So alcohol evaporates at 173 degrees. Alcohol evaporates at 173 degrees. Water evaporates at 212.
Okay.
So if you think about what we just talked about, you cooked all those grains, right? You filtered out all the muck. Now you've got this like grain liquid. You're cooking that again. If you cook it, you get it to a certain temperature, that is going to distill. That's going to evaporate. The alcohol is going to evaporate before the water does.
Yep.
And that is basic.
That's how you bring proof down.
Well, that's how you that. So fermentation, distillation. You've already cooked the grains.
Capture that cloud.
Yep.
Singly, so you have just the pure alcohol, and all of the slurry is still left behind.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you've cooked the grains. Now you're cooking the slurry left behind, or the sour mash. Mm-hmm. That alcohol is evaporating before, so you're capturing that alcohol, condensing it back into liquid at a cooler temperature, and that is as basic as distillation as I can get.
Yeah.
With the cool jingle.
That's awesome.
Right? There it is. And so every spirit on the planet comes out that way. You have to start with a good spirit and base distillation, right? To end up with a good spirit.
See, I would have never thought that, I always thought yeast was yeast. Like there are different types, like yeast that will produce an alcohol, or a bread yeast that will help the bread rise, where it's just the CO2. But that makes complete sense. I mean, that's almost the most important thing for the flavor outside of aging. And
look, our yeast strain is not some proprietary, like unique yeast strain. You can use, call it a commodity yeast strain and get something special. Mm-hmm. Or you can have your yeast strain that you've had and the mother, right? That like core beginning of a yeast strain.
How do they develop it? Like if you wanted to start experimenting, if Angelse Envey wanted to start experimenting with different yeast strains and found one they like, mm-hmm. how do you jump from, okay, it tastes like this, what are we going to do to the next gen of that yeast to make it be something different?
Science, cultivation. There's a story I love. Alan Bishop, he is this mad scientist. He started with Copper and Kings out of Louisville, American Brandy, Stewards. He worked for French Lick Distilling in Indiana. So he went to the site that he knew was the site of an old distillery. I mean, 100 years old, been gone for a long time. Yeast is a natural living organism in the air, right? Mm-hmm. So he went to the site, and this is the piece I don't understand, but he went to the site and he captured this yeast, this natural airborne yeast.
From an old distillery.
That is so baller.
Wow.
I also feel like it's a lie.
I'm with you.
Not that you're lying. Like, if I'm that guy, I'd be like, I captured
I caught that yeast.
a Ghostbuster threw the trap out and just sucked it out.
This shit hasn't just resonated with the bourbon nerds. I don't get it, because
I believe it. He would have been called out by now, but somebody who knows.
This guy is as old school as they get, and he
cool.
went and he cultivated. He captured the yeast strain, and again, I don't know how, but he did it
with the trap from Ghostbusters.
Of course, the yeast trap.
Obviously,
instead of a laser, and he did this, and he created a whiskey from this natural airborne yeast strain. Because look, there's yeast everywhere around. Mm-hmm. Right? So, good and bad, right? So he captured this, created a whiskey out of it. The science behind this shit is just incredible. And that yeast strain, like you mentioned, presents so much of that flavor. But a big portion of that flavor, sure, but then you look at barrel aging, the grain makeup, right? How you blend it, so many other factors, and that's why the just the beauty and the history and this rich just tradition of making bourbon is so pure, because there's so many factors that go in, and you can make a lasagna, right? You make a really fucking good lasagna.
Joe's Italian.
I love lasagna. I'm like Garfield. Just give me all the lasagna.
Yes. And you look at how many ways can you make a lasagna?
Oh, so many ways.
So many ways.
Yes.
And you look at that.
And none of them are wrong.
No.
There's no wrong way to make lasagna.
Exactly. It's like, I relate bourbon to like music, to chefs. If you set out to do a thing, people ask us all the time, like, why did you want to age bourbon in port barrels? Why did you choose the proof? You know, all these
Tastes good.
decisions you made. Number one, you know what? Fuck, it tastes really good.
Yep.
Number two, you know what? I made this song, and I think it sounded really great. So I'm gonna do this thing, right? Or
That's a very cool mindset.
To get cool new shit, you got to try new shit.
It's artistry.
yeah, and to stop. It's the stop that gets me to say, you know what? This is it.
Yeah.
No more drums. We don't need to mess with the guitar.
We did it. We can record this.
Yes. You know what? No more salt. You know?
Yeah.
Whatever needs in that dish, we're there. It's done. And that I respect so much, because that's the piece that just we so many times we're asked why.
Yeah.
You know, the proof, the mash bill, the bourbon. At the end of the day, you know, we had this master to say, I want to do this thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is where I think it should be. So one of the fun facts I want to mention is that if you crack a bottle of Angelse Envey, you look at the cork. On the cork, it says 1010 expression.
Okay.
1010, we are very fond of our product. That isn't our own rating. That is the original launch date of Angelse Envey.
Okay.
Intended original launch date. So 1010, October 2010 was when we thought we were going to launch, because Lincoln Henderson thought that we'll take a 5-6-year-old bourbon, and that port wine finish we thought would take, a couple months. We just wanted some kind of subtle influence with the bourbon. As they're starting to taste some of these barrels, they're like, it's not there.
Wow.
It's not ready.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, the sales team, the marketing team, they're like, no, it's good.
All the non-artists.
Yeah. It's fine. No, Lincoln is fine. It's good. Let's put it out.
Yeah, we didn't plan. We didn't plan for any of this. But no big deal.
Let's start bringing some money the other way. Like Lincoln, as stubborn as he was, again, he's a master distiller. He's a legend in the industry. He was an inaugural inductee in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. Worked for Brown Forman, who owns Jack, Woodford, Old Forester. He created, he brought to market Woodford Reserve, some Jack brands, like Gentleman Jack, Single Barrel. Anyway, legend. He's the type of guy you just, all right.
Let him cook.
I don't like it. Yes.
You just
let him cook.
Let him cook. It doesn't have to make sense to you.
Like, we're ready. We'll continue to lose money if you feel like. So Angelse Envey wasn't released for another 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so it wasn't just a short period of time.
No. Yeah. So I'm sure
that's a great story.
So you had pre-printed the corks and you're still using them? Is that the point?
Hundreds. And you're right. So those corks said 1010, and you think, this is our big launch date. It's a little homage, but now it's a homage to that, the commitment to perfection on what he wanted to do, what we're trying to do. Lincoln, unfortunately, passed in 2013.
Okay.
This melanoma, Angelse Envey was his only pet project outside of Brown Forman.
Yeah.
Brown Forman is one of the
legendary.
biggest brands in the world.
Yep.
And so to have this and to be a part of this is pretty special. But, for him to say, I want to start a brand in bourbon that's finished was controversial, right? Because, like we talked, bourbon and its tradition, its history, that process has to be there. But we did it every step of the way, but we took it one step further and we put it in another barrel. And that was Lincoln's, his passion, his ideas to say, hey, this bourbon can really take a cool journey.
That's awesome.
Into another barrel.
Yeah. And he's an artist, like an artist through and through. That's an incredible story.
And if he wasn't behind the helm on what we were trying to do, and really uprooting this industry at the time to say we're going to kind of mess with bourbon, who knows where we would be if it was somebody that was new to the game. I don't know if we'd be where we are. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and no joke, it's one of my favorite ones, and I'm not just telling you that because I'm not a big drinker at all. But it's one of my, it's one of the first ones I've had where I just drink it straight, and I was like, I really like the taste of this. So I'm a big fan.
Look, versatility is like at our core because you can sip this thing, and if you look at our bottle, it's one of the most recognizable bottles now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, we're only 13 years old, but you look at a silhouette of all the big brand bottles on the shelf. One of the most recognizable.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you look at, okay, take it down a level. People don't understand it, but what we did for the category, we really scaled this category. I mean, nobody in 2010 was doing what we were doing in the bourbon category.
Finishing whiskey in barrels.
Thank you.
In different barrels.
Yep. And so you look at the category now, it's massive. Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have a guy like Lincoln really doing it, who knows where we would be. But now we're ushering in a new era with Owen Martin. With Owen Martin coming in, he just look him up. He spent his time overseas, Scotland, beer. This guy's
okay. Versatile.
I mean,
yeah.
Educated himself. I'll just say he couldn't be a better fit for this brand because now he's 2 years into our brand. His first release with our brand. He's the first master distiller outside of Lincoln. Right?
Okay. Wow.
So our founder, we never truly had a master distiller. Lincoln had sons, right? He started the brand with his son Wes and his 6 grandsons, 4 of which worked for the brand. They've all exited the brand. Now have Owen Martin, who of recent came to us from Stranahan's.
Yeah. Colorado.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they really
I told you this is Andy's Christmas right now.
Oh, my God. They paved the way on American malt whiskey. Yeah. You know, you talk about pioneers. You talk about, they've done a lot of finishing.
Yep.
And if you meet this guy, which we will, bring Owen here because
let's do it.
You got to bring him to the swinging door and hint because technically we're supposed to run into you like we did with you.
Yeah.
So maybe you could be like, "Hey, I'm in Milwaukee again. Maybe I'll be there."
Can you believe it?
Yeah, what a coincidence.
This guy. I mean, let me tell you a story. I had friends coming into town. These guys are the salt of the earth. One guy owns a farm. One guy's an accountant. They are the best people on the planet. They would come to Louisville. They're whiskey nerds. Like, hey, can we have a tour? Like, you know what? I'm going to be in town. I texted Owen, and I said, hey, are you going to be in town? He's like, no, but I'll tell you what. Come to my office.
Wow.
Text me when you're in my office. And we got there, and I texted him, like, hey, we're in your office. He's like, all right, go to this box. Go to that bottle. Try this, try that. I can tell you what, but this is the guy he is.
In his office, you're showing these guys around.
That's awesome.
Like,
wow.
I
love people like that.
That's
opportunity
awesome.
to just go into this guy's office and try the shit he's working on. It's just
that is so cool. You got to get him on the show.
And I was trying to play it cool. I'm like, oh yeah,
I do this all the time.
It's fine. I've had this shit. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God,
you got like a single tear rolling down your eye.
You guys freaking
Like
out.
hearing the national anthem for the first time and an eagle screeching.
Yeah.
He's like, I do this all the time.
Where did you come? Where did that American flag come from? What are you doing? Yeah. It is. He's that guy. He is the salt of the earth, and he's an incredible asset to this brand. And I think what it does, it gives that opportunity for consumers to connect, to understand what we've done. Because, look, 12 years, we've paved the way in so many ways. We're the first distillery downtown Louisville, post-Prohibition. We're the first distillery to have a full bar. I mean, that actually, I'm not talking about like, oh, let's have a classic with what we have, like a full-on cocktail menu. Mike Bone, this guy's a genius. He was our bar manager. He really scaled that program. We've got an incredible crew down there. We're also a distillery downtown Louisville. You know, that downtown Louisville has an urban bourbon trail now.
Yeah.
We've got big players. I mean,
I have a question about that, Jason. Like, how? So, Louisville is the quintessential like headquarters of bourbon, right? There's a ton of old brands. You're new to the market. There's new brands in Louisville. What's the dynamic like there? Do you get along with each other? Do you like prop up each other, or is it competitive?
you know, I want to just create some controversy.
Yeah.
and
You're like
say,
the
you know
Capulets
what?
and the Montagues.
Fuck this
Yeah.
one. Yes. Yeah. You know what? Watch, you know, we're the Leo DiCaprios. Right?
Of course you
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
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 But no,
Yeah.
it's not that exciting only because there's so much respect around this
Okay.
industry
Sure.
and there's so much movement and people. I'll put it in perspective. When we opened our distillery in 2016. We were turning away 40 to 50,000 people a year.
Wow.
Sure.
Jeez.
We'd like
Yeah.
to think we're that popular, but listen, that bourbon trail, that
Yeah.
connection is very real. And it was just everyone coming because everyone comes in Louisville. That's
Yeah.
kind of the
Mecca, the center.
everyone goes out east. It's like,
Yeah.
45 minutes east to get to a lot of those distilleries. But we had this beautiful point because we were kind of that capture before or at the end of all these distilleries.
Sure.
But those 40 to 1,000 people a year we were turning away because we couldn't take them. That's not on top of, last year we hit about 200,000 people.
Jeez.
I mean, alone,
Yeah.
just for our distillery. So the respect is real. Everyone just supports each other, and that bourbon trail, which is still kind of a piece that people don't understand. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go park at the bottom of this mountain and go walk this trail and hit distilleries, right? Because there's hundreds.
Yeah.
And if you think you're going to go hit the distillery trail and hit more than 3, like, I would make that a week-long trip. Because you're going to go to one place, you're going to taste 6 different whiskeys.
You'll just die before you
You're
make
going
it
to
to the end.
you're going to go to another one. Don't ever drive. Every, Mint Julep Tours is the creme de la creme of tours. Let them take you. They'll feed you lunch. They'll take you to these things. But there's so much good stuff to taste. There's so much respect that happens, to get back to your question on this industry,
Yeah.
is that there's so much enthusiasm around the industry that there's so much to go around. So it's like, hey, we all live in the same neighborhood, and hey, go crash at their place one night,
Sure.
come over to our place another night.
Sure.
There's plenty to go around.
Yes.
Yeah. Rising tide lifts all ships,
Yes.
right?
So, to the main question, what the hell were you doing at Swinging Door Exchange in Milwaukee?
Milwaukee. So, listen, there's lots of brands out there, right? There's lots of love that can be shared around. To us, as a brand, what doesn't happen is that follow through, right? So we don't have we're still only 13 years old. We don't have a massive network. We have a good network, but we don't want to come into town and say, love you, Swinging Door. Let's do all this stuff. I'm going to send you some stuff, and then I'm going to see you in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a follow-up mission of, a colleague that came about a month ago to say, hey, I visited these accounts. He gave me these accounts with these people, and it was strategic to say, hey, my counterpart came here. We want to follow up and say, we appreciate the time. Because look, the time is bar managers, buyers, whatever, Mirette, Swinging Door, it's a Meg or Mel.
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 I can tell you that experience, I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I had an espresso martini. If you haven't had an espresso martini with bourbon, do it. Shameless plug. I had that. I had to leave on a call. I walked out and I was gone for maybe 10 minutes. I came back in and I sat down and she said, "Hey, you've been gone a while. Do you want that reshaken, freshened up?"
Wow. Yeah.
You can go into the best steakhouse you've ever been in. You're going to spend the amount I spent on a drink there versus the amount you spend on a steakhouse cocktail.
Yep.
And you look at those service levels, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
So I can tell you right now, Milwaukee is in my heart. I would love it. And to your point, I'm here to just try to follow up and be present.
Yep.
I love it.
Because we're still, we're still a brand that's growing, and we're part of the Bacardi fold, and it's such a cool family to be part of. But the bourbon category is massive. It's credible. There's a lot of people throwing around, money and promises, and presence, I would say, is the biggest component of that.
Sure.
I love it.
And to say, hey, we're here.
Especially in a digital world.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's easy to send an
Being
email.
here,
Yeah,
But physically showing up is a now what that, I mean, that was the only way you could do it. Now it's like the extra.
Yep.
no doubt. And so I'll send stuff, right? Like I'll say, "Hey, I appreciate you. And I was here. I talked to you. Remember me? I'll send you some bar tools, maybe, some swag, whatever, just to say, hey, I see you."
Mm-hmm.
And, 1 out of 5 times we get responses from, because look, there's so many brands that are able to just give so much more than we can give. And we take pride in the fact that, look, we know we have to earn our keep. So we'll show up and we'll keep showing up, and we're not going to ask for a bunch, but we're going to say, hey, we're here, and we hope that you see what we see, like tonight at Swinging Door, that honestly, no bullshit, I've never had that level of experience on a place like that. I mean, you're talking steakhouses.
Yeah.
You can get stuffy service, but that attentive service, just to say, I see you, I don't know you, but look, I want you to have the best experience you can have.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
There's something weird about that place.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's so cool to hear that, visiting our city. It's nice to know that that's like what you take away from.
I came here to visit so many places. I have my laundry list. I sat there at like 2 p.m. I'm like, I know I got it. They're open. It's great.
Yeah.
I am big on asking bartenders where to go. Mm-hmm. And that place came up more than any other place.
Really? Yeah.
So I'm like,
It's a
all right.
spot.
It's so wild
Yeah.
because and we had this conversation already, but I got to repeat it now. There's nothing special about it. If you really think about it, it looks just like any other corner bar. There's nothing in there that's uniquely special, but for some reason it is. And it's literally it's a vibe. It's the vibe of that place is different than anywhere else, and I mean, it prompted us to build a show around it, which we still haven't even talked to the owner about this yet. They're not paying us to do this. Like, we just love that place. We always meet cool people like yourself.
Hey, I'm in.
Yeah.
Whatever you get in.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Everything you're talking about, spot on. I am lucky to be able to travel the country, and my life is in bars and restaurants.
Would you say this is the best one of all of them?
Well, easy.
I just got.
Are you talking top of all time?
No.
Well, I'm saying in the group of all time, yes.
Really?
I mean,
like in that style of type of bar.
and I'm telling you, look, I'm Midwest is best.
Yep.
Right? We had this joke in my old team, no coast, best coast.
Yeah.
In the middle, because look, don't understand the level of hospitality that you get in the Midwest.
Yep.
But
Third coast, best coast.
that aside, the example I explained earlier, it's that type of, they have no idea. It doesn't matter who you are. They're not going to judge you on what you're spending or what you order. It's like, look, I'm happy for you to be here. At the end of the day, if you're in this industry and if you've spent time in this industry, and if you don't have that mindset to say, you know what, this is my job. I'm happy to be here. I want you to be happy to be here. That dynamic is so lost. And honestly, it's been lost, I think, for a while. COVID was a real deal. It just, it hit a lot of people in a lot of ways. But to be able to kind of get back a little bit, and I'll say this, what I feel like Milwaukee has given me is that these people are like, no, nothing's changed. We love this city. Mm-hmm. We love what we do. We're happy that you're here. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. We're happy you're here, and we're going to try to give you the best experience that we can. And that experience I got at Swinging Door tonight was that, look, that efficiency in a bartender to be able to say, I'm going fucking bananas, excuse my language.
You're permitted here.
Yep.
Good. Thank God. I would have done
no
it so
FCC
many more
in
times.
podcasts.
I've been trying to be cool. I've been trying to drop it somewhere. But that experience and the way they just held it down, and then again,
Mel and Daryl are great.
I came back.
You met them for a little bit. They're both going to be on this show soon.
I came back, and that's what the beauty of all this to me is, the fact that normally I come to markets and I'm trying to impact and just meet as many people as I can. I came to Swinging Door midday. I knew they were open. I met because I went to another account that they said another bartender worked there. Another account said, you got to go there. So I had to go. Mm-hmm. And I went early. It was kind of slow, but it was still for 2 p.m.
Yeah, it's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. I was like, wow, okay.
You probably just missed it because their lunch, they're pretty packed at lunch.
Oh, yeah. I see now. And then, 2, 3, 4, it's like I meet people. I can't tell you the conversations I had at the bar with just people just excited about either I'm here all the time, I didn't recognize you. Like, who are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, why are you?
Yeah. What
See, which is funny.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of people that are traveling. So it literally is a mix of regulars and just complete strangers.
Yep.
It's like and that's part of the vibe, I think. It's very transient yet a name's day.
And I don't think that atmosphere could happen without the right people behind the bar.
Absolutely not.
To embrace it, right?
Yes.
To say, hey, this is so-and-so. They're here every day. I mean, they taught me bar dice. Do you know what?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I won. I mean, I'm incredible at it. Apparently.
Everybody's a winner at bar dice.
I mean,
except for one.
Can't lose. Yeah.
I mean, it's purely skill.
It's all
related.
skill.
It's 100% skill.
It's no luck.
Yeah. So that's why I won every time. But that being said, they were just like, hey, do you know about bar dice?
It's a Midwest thing. We actually weight dice in the favor of a guest. That's how nice we are.
That nice, Minnesota nice. Look, they want to take it, but look, Wisconsin, Indiana nice. That's where it's at.
Yeah,
that's where it's
like
at.
that.
Milwaukee nice.
Oh my God, that type of hospitality, it's just so unmatched. And we talk about it all the time, but you cannot. Anybody outside of this Midwest bubble cannot understand it.
This message brought to you by different. Visit Wisconsin.
Visit Wisconsin and Angelse Envey.
All right, Jason. So I'd like to close this out with a little game if you're on board. You seem like a bourbon expert.
I love games and bourbon.
Okay. So I'm going to name, I think, 5 different bourbons, and I want your one-word first reaction to this bourbon.
One word?
Are we finding out if he's bullshit?
Yeah, no. This is not a quiz. I'm not going to put you in a bad place. I just wanted your first. You know the bourbons, right? Like you can. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, there's not a bourbon. Well, okay. Go.
Okay. Kirkland 6-year.
Costco?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good there? Okay.
Yeah.
Costco. Can I end there?
Oh, that's your one word.
That's his word. It's Costco.
I like it. All right.
Listen, there's. I love the Costco conversation, Kirkland conversation, because everyone wants to say like the vodka's Grey Goose, the bourbon Jim Beam, and all this other stuff. There's truth to some.
Yeah.
There's not truth to the others. I'll just leave it at that.
I like it. Okay, Jim Beam.
I mean, legend.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. Pappy Van Winkle. You can say it.
Frustrating.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was going to say overrated.
I thought that just.
I felt overrated coming from
Frustrating.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, frustrating.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I expand?
Yeah.
You know what? Yes.
Look, Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to get to Buffalo Trace
Yeah.
because it started with Pappy,
Yeah.
and everything they've done, it's the Pappy trickle down.
Yeah. Weller.
E.H. Taylor,
Yeah. You
Weller,
Yep.
Emerty Lee,
Yeah.
Blanton's,
Yep.
Buffalo Trace. Now you're talking Wheatley vodka and everything else they make. Look, every brand wants to get there,
Yeah.
and every brand wants to hate it.
Yeah. Because of what they're. Yeah. Yeah.
But look, it's all quality product.
Yeah.
And, you can't hate it because, most of the hate comes from just wanting to be there.
Yeah.
So,
Fair enough.
Hey.
That's well spoken.
hey,
Yeah.
coming after you.
All right. All right. I got two more here.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Henry McKenna.
Oh, Heaven Hill. So Heaven Hill Distillery. One of my favorite conversations is talking about these distilleries and the spider web of brands that come from these distilleries. Because one of the biggest questions I get is like, well, what distillery are you part of?
Yep.
Now, we're Angelse Envey. We're Louisville Distilling Company is, a core brand, but we make Angelse Envey.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Heaven Hill, right? Henry McKenna, Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, right? Bernheim. So many things come out of that distillery. All the best bonded stuff.
Yeah.
All right, JTS Brown, JW Dant, Mellowcorn. Evan Hill has made so many brands, and if you said Henry McKenna,
Yeah.
I was going to say, which one of those is the one word?
the one word, Heaven Hill, and just let me say one more thing.
Okay.
Hear me out.
There you go.
Hear me out.
Yep, absolutely.
You look at mash bills,
Yep.
and we talk about it all the time because you want to navigate flavor and what you like. High rye mash bills. After the corn, every bourbon has to be based off corn, as we discussed.
Yep.
After that corn, rye or wheats are most commonly used. So those rye mash bills, us, Heaven Hill, Four Roses, those kind of mash bills are what I like, and I think you can navigate a shelf because there's so much bullshit on the shelf. You could put a 120 proof whiskey on the shelf that you haven't seen before, and you're going to sell it because that's where the bourbon category is. You take these trusted distilleries, Heaven Hill's one of them, and distilleries that you can, if you like that profile, we talked about Buffalo Trace. That's a wheated mash bill.
Yep.
So after the corn, it's not rye, it's wheat. So you look at
Sweeter.
Trace, Maker's Mark. I think you get this like blend of sweetness and minerality.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So full circle, I'm back.
Yep.
Here I am.
Henry McKenna.
Henry McKenna. Love it. I think it got a big boost from that like best whiskey 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think it's a nod more to Heaven Hill. And I think their whiskeys, because Elijah Craig has always been a solid go-to.
Yeah, Old Faithful.
Evan Williams, single barrel. One that has just come back around. That's like a $35 amazing pour.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. So I think Henry McKenna just falls in line with so many good whiskeys.
Yeah.
And as much as that became kind of the Buffalo Trace or the Blantons, let's say.
Yeah.
It became that $20, $30 bottle you could find everywhere.
Great. Yeah.
That
Good.
now it's $50, $60, $75 because it got some street cred.
Yeah. Okay.
But Heaven Hill's been doing that shit for years.
So what's the one word
Of Henry McKenna?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, okay. Honestly, after
counts as hard, yeah.
two
A
separate tirades, yes.
A weird moan?
Yeah.
Like a weird moan. Yeah.
All right, Jason, I got one more.
Worth the price if you can get it at its price.
Yeah.
All
All right. Last one. One word. We're holding you to this, okay? Joe will cut you off
give
if
me
you
like
use
10
more than
more.
one.
I'm gonna I'll do something. I don't know. I'll hit one of these buttons and something will happen to you. You get slimed.
Angelse Envey.
That's where the moan should come in. You know, the moans.
Don't.
If I get
It's
closer.
a different kind, and I don't know if I want to hear it.
All right. Cut him off, Joe.
Oh, okay. I'll stop. So this I have one word for.
Yeah.
Innovation.
I love it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Can I expand?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, who are we to stop you from doing something that clearly you love?
Listen, 2010, again, nobody in Bourbon, if we didn't have Lincoln Henderson saying, hey, I'm going to mess with Bourbon.
So I have a quick question. I just want to interrupt you because we talked about Lincoln Henderson. If he was such a well-respected innovator, why was he getting so much flack about doing what he was doing?
Because he was messing with Bourbon.
Okay, so it doesn't matter who you are. If you start trying to change stuff, you're gonna people are gonna try and smack you.
Well
down.
played.
Got
Yep.
you. Okay.
Well put. That's it. 2010, that was it. He wanted to take one step extra to take Bourbon and put it into another barrel.
Yeah.
And look, our flagship is Bourbon into a port wine barrel. That wasn't what we set out to do. That was just what we could get a hold of. We had 20 different barrels. If you followed our journey, we've done that. Like we've released those barrel finishes. You're talking sherry, Oloroso sherry, tawny port, Spanish Madeira, so many different finishes. But that original release of a port finished bourbon was there because it was a magical combination, but what we could get a hold of the most in terms of those finishing barrels, the port barrels. So what was born was a port finished bourbon that wasn't really being done. And so when we started, and a guy like Lincoln who wanted to start a brand said, I'm going to take bourbon but put it into another barrel, was wild, and people had a big problem with it. Now you look at the category, there's finishes galore.
Yeah. He revolutionized it.
Oh,
yeah.
And that's why I don't think we've talked about it enough of what we started, how we scaled this category in bourbon.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got a lot of cool firsts too. I mean, we're the first to come back downtown since Prohibition at our distillery. We're the first distillery to have a full cocktail bar.
Yeah.
You know, you could go to a distillery and have a tasting bar.
Yeah, but go get a drink. Buy a drink.
And I'm not talking like a classic, but, you know, I want a cool, curated craft cocktail with our bourbon. We're the first to do that. So we've really paved a lot of ways. And our D Ford, our GM over distillery, just got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
In terms of operators.
That's awesome.
I think we're making waves in so many ways, but
that's great. Innovation,
man.
Yeah, that's
it.
awesome. Yeah,
just pushing the boundaries and trying to have fun with it. And I have to take the time to
Yep.
say we have a brand new product coming out.
All right. Let's hear it. Let's hear about it. All right.
First major release in 12 years.
No way. Okay.
Huge deal.
Yes. New product, Joe.
When's it coming out?
Literally in 2 weeks.
We might have to release this episode first,
Yeah.
next week, and just fire it off.
Yeah.
First big release, major release in 12 years. We've lived on two core products in 12 years. We have a port finished bourbon and our Caribbean rum finished rye. That's been our core product line for 12 years. Those two products. We've done a lot of very limited releases, but we've grown those two brands. So this is our first release, our first major release in 12 years. It's a bourbon, 5-6-year-old bourbon, similar to our flagship. Instead of aged in a used barrel, it's aged in a fresh oak and 3 different types of oak. Chinkapin oak, Hungarian oak, French oak. Chinkapin oak's kind of a trendy oak, if you will, if that's a thing. Trendy oak, because it is
Amongst distillers.
Like, do you even know oak? Do you even know Chinkapin? What are you talking about? Chinkapin oak has been done, right? Hungarian oak is very, very popular in tequila aging. French oak, very prominent in cognac, brandy. You guys know anything about brandy up here?
We drink 98% of the brandy in the
we
world
know something
here.
about
Yeah, I heard there's some things.
I think we're drinking it right now.
Yeah,
by
that's
the way.
literally brandy old fashioned in a can.
Oh, that's right. I think we should have a battle here. I had my first brandy, or my sweet old fashioned. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, if you order that anywhere else, they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
I don't even know what Corbel is.
It was a thing. But that, brandy old fashions, big deal, right? Anyway, triple oak finished whiskey. So we talked about our flagship was a port wine finished bourbon. Our second product was a Caribbean rum finished rye whiskey. Fast forward 12 years, we've got a triple oak finished bourbon.
Wow.
And so instead of a used barrel, it's all fresh oak. Chinkapin, French, Hungarian oak. Hungarian's incredible spicy. Chinkapin is a lot like American white oak. It's sweet, cherry, and then you've got French oak. Fashionable. Yes, my man. Then you've got French oak. That's just,
And what is this called? What
So Angelse Envey Triple Oak.
Angels Envy Triple Oak. 2 weeks being released.
But technically it's Angelse Envey Triple Oak finished bourbon.
Right.
Okay.
If we're all nerds here.
Yeah. Because it has to be finished that way.
And if there's an extra bottle or two laying around,
Well,
I know a couple guys that would love to try it and talk about it.
You're going to get it.
I like it.
I mean, this is so cool, and it's limited. Everyone's not going to get it. The people that have supported us will get it. But it's such a cool addition to our portfolio because it's so different in terms of it's just fresh oak instead of just some kind of used barrel.
Joe, I think this is a good time to say publicly what your favorite bourbon is. Mine is Angels Envy, and we're big supporters of Angels Envy.
Oh,
And if
100%.
that helps us get a bottle.
No,
of
like
the,
legitimately, I told you this at the bar.
Yeah.
It's I'm not a big drinker, which is abnormal for Wisconsin. I think I overdid it in college.
The best thing that when I first hit Wisconsin, they're like, look, people drink, and usually they'll drink a lot of whiskey, and then they'll go to beer, and then they'll go back to whiskey. Like when they don't drink, they just drink.
They drink beer.
Something else.
Yeah. It's like,
it would
are
be
you drinking? No, I've been drinking beer.
Yeah.
All
if
day.
any one of us was separated from the group, it would be viewed as a problem. But when you're with the group, it's the average. When you go to spring break, if you're from Wisconsin, they don't allow you to compete in competitions for drinking. So it's an actual thing. But of all the bourbon I've had and everything, Angels Envy was my favorite for the flavor, specifically for the flavor. And it's because I like sweeter things.
Sure.
And it was one of the best ones I could have on the rocks regularly when, I get sick of the other ones. So, and that's legit. I'm not saying that because I told you that at the bar.
Yeah.
So it was, it's awesome that we ran into you.
There's
serendipity.
There's they say there's about 15 to 18 products in typical rotation. If you're a massive whiskey drinker, which I am, you've got that many brands in rotation that you either drink at home or you go out and drink.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get in that, because look, we fit that because we're something different. If you want to rotate through your brands and something that and tried and true, but the people I run into that say this is all I drink, like, look, you're missing out on life, brother, sister, whoever you are.
Yeah.
Like if you say you're drinking this one thing, like you gotta open up.
Yeah.
There's so much world out there to live. Get out. Milwaukee, look, we're in the Midwest. You get the burbs. You get those, they're stuck in their ways. Like, no, this is all I know. Like, there's other stuff out there. Just give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Try Angelse Envey.
Yep.
If you're looking for something new, give
Absolutely.
it a go.
Well,
You won't be disappointed.
Absolutely not.
we were built on that principle, just something else, something new, and we still fit that. So if you want to spend your money, you want to spend it better, we kind of fit that because we're something a little different. We're something a little better. So
Oh, yeah. No, it's a premium brand that doesn't cost a premium. It's really good.
we like to think so.
So I'm excited for the new release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Heck yeah.
Listen,
We will try that on air. I promise you.
Yeah.
Listen,
we will drink it.
Look, we got glasses. There's one of Andy's name on it.
listen, how far are we from the courtyard? Hey, I've got some samples.
Okay. All right.
So
All right.
it doesn't have to be right now.
Okay.
We'll get you some samples.
All right. Okay.
Taste it. You make your own assessment.
I like
Jason, you have great ideas. I like all of your ideas.
I've got swag. What do you need?
Awesome. Well, I'll close with that, Jason. It was a pleasure meeting you at the Swinging Door. Thank you for agreeing to follow us into a dark building after just meeting us to record an episode for the podcast. But
the bath here was questionable.
Yeah.
It was questionable.
It was fine.
I'm like, hey,
Jason, it was fine.
Life's worth taking risks,
it was
right?
Fine. It was. Looking around, it's still like, I don't know. Why are we in a dumpster? I don't know why.
This is where we do the show. It's real. It's real life.
The acoustics are phenomenal.
Yeah. Awesome. No, Jason, thank you very much for coming on the show, man. This was a lot of fun.
A pleasure, truly.
Appreciate it.
All right. And everyone else, thank you very much for tuning in. Look forward to hearing from you next time.